the type, data type. It says supported. So there are quite a few kinds of data the MySQL can support, of which are numeric, okay, string, date, and there is one special called enum. I really love enum. Most of the people out there say don't use enum, don't use enum, don't use enum, they say, but I'll tell you, I use enum for it's really cool. Enum, I like it. I'll tell you guys why I like it too. Okay, enum. Yeah, that is so. I can put this enum inside string also. So let's see. So numeric type, string type, and date type. So these are the three types of data our MySQL can support. So let's talk about numeric. So I'll just write it down here. So in this, you guys have to remember only two things. Okay, trust me, there are only two things to remember in the whole of data types. Loads of people say loads of things about data types, but I'll tell only two things to remember in database. So the first is the name. What is the name? Tiny int, small int, medium int, big int. Okay, then there is decimal. I hope decimal. Okay, so these are the types, numeric types. So first thing you have to remember is the name of it, and the next is how big a number should be such that this database can hold it. Okay, yeah, there is float. I don't think float is. I prefer decimal than float. Yeah, there is float. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, let's try float too. So yeah, so the next thing you are supposed to remember is that the length of that particular data that can be stored. Okay, how do we recognize that? I'll be showing that. So tiny int, the size of tiny int, so they call it as size, is 1. Small plus 2. Oh, actually, yeah, there must be one more. Medium int must be small 2. Yeah, oops, it's not 2. Well, let me just 128 0 to 255. 255, yeah, correct, fine. So 3, 5, 11, oops, 13, and this is again 13 and decimal points. So I'll be showing in you in an example. So this is what you are supposed to remember. That's the reason I'm saying here. And this can be, this is 11 and a decimal. All right. So what does this mean actually? So when I say 1, okay, when I say the length of tiny int is 1, it can withhold the numbers from 0 to 255. So if you give a number 260, let's say, if the number's value is 260, it will still store 255. Alright, so length 1 means it will store from 0 to 255, and this is 0 to 65535. That means if you store a number which is greater than this number, it will still store only this number. So this is only signed. Okay, I'll show this option too. So sorry, this is unsigned. Alright, so this is I don't remember the numbers, but there might be some logic here. Maybe what is 2 power 255? Well, that's a bytes. That is a bytes. It's 2 bytes. Okay, byte is different. It's a storage amount it's a memory. The thing I'm telling about here is the length. This is the length, so don't get confused. This is type. Okay, this is length. This is length. Okay, and oops, and this is nothing but the number it can afford, and this is nothing but sign. You know positive numbers and negative numbers. So sign is unsigned, means it's a positive number. Right, so that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about bytes here because I seriously do not care about bytes. When I'm writing a database, I don't care about the number of bytes it accumulates. However, it's default. So if I give small int, it takes 2 bytes of data. I don't care how much 2 bytes of data, but I only care about the biggest number it can afford. Okay, what should be its length, and that, I mean, I'm just giving the important data order. So there is a formula for this. I don't remember the formula. 2 power, what is 2 power 6? 32, 64, 128. So 2 power 8. Oh, now I got it. The reason bytes. So this is 2 power 8. 2 power 8 minus 1. Okay. Then this becomes 0 to 2 power 16 because 2 bytes. You guys are getting this? Yeah? No? Don't worry. Yes? You know bytes? So just now Kavita told that small int takes 2 bytes and medium int takes 3 bytes. So when I say 3 bytes, how much is now? 2 power? 2 power? How much is 3 bytes? Not understood? Great. So a tiny int will take 32. Yeah. No, it's only 3 bytes. A tiny int will take 1 byte of data. Fugale. So 1 byte of data. And this is really not at all relevant to us. 1 byte of data equal to 8 bits. Okay. So tiny int takes 1 byte, small int takes 2 bytes, and medium int takes 3 bytes, like such. So how do we calculate this number? I said 0 to 255, it can afford only 0 to 255. This can afford only 0 to 65535. So how do you come to that conclusion that this can afford only that much space? Because 1 byte can afford only this much, 2 bytes can afford this much, and 3 bytes 32 or 24, 24, and 0 to blah blah. I don't really care about this. So this is now 32 minus 1. So yeah, so like such, like such, you have to decide. So always remember 2 things here. I won't talk about anything, only 2 things to remember here. For instance, if your table is a user table, okay, since there will be number of users, the ID should be int. Okay, if your table is a category table, let's say when I say category, suppose PHP, MySQL, HTML, Java, JavaScript, Node.js, Ruby, etc., are all categories. So the categories will not increase. How many categories will be there? 255, 300, 400, 1000. So the categories may not go beyond 1000 or 2000. So here what should I use? Small int as an ID. Now Let's take photos. We have taken photos, right? The photo thing. So photos table. What should its ID? What should be its ID? Now tell me. Give me your intelligence. How smart you are to decide the data type of your ID field. What should be the ID field for the photo table ID? You see here, this is it. Where is our photo table? Oh my goodness, here. You see this? What should be the database data type of this? No answer? Int? Uh-huh. Well, tiny int. Okay. So why int and why tiny int? You guys can explain why int and tiny int. So let's take first Tawfiq's big int. Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty good. So Rajesh, let's take your answer. Why tiny int? Why do you think it should be tiny int? So photo ID, always remember, photos will always be greater than the users, right? Because one user may submit 1,000 photos, let's say. So when our user table ID is int, then the photos table ID should be big int. Right? So this is how your intelligence comes in database designing. You are supposed to take care of this part. How do you declare your data types is very important, because tomorrow if your site becomes bigger, you cannot readily change your data types. It takes a lot of time. Okay, so even before starting your database, okay, so decide on your data types. Right? Any questions here? Forget about this decimal and float. We'll be talking about this when we talk about decimals. But yeah, this is a scenario. Okay, always choose your data types wisely. Alright? Do you have a question, Fugali? Yeah, go ahead. Shoot. Do not hesitate to ask a question.